to carry him. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. So on we go. Her welfare is my concern. No burden is she to bear. We'll get there. For I know she would not encumber me. She ain't heavy, she's my sister. If I'm laden at all, I'm laden with sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love for one another. It's a long, long road from which there is no return. While we're on the way to there, why not share? And the Lord doesn't weigh me down at all. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. She's my sister. He's my brother.
Good morning, St. Francis. It is good to have you here with me today. I'm Pastor Jim, and we love being together. I wish I could see you in person and give you hugs, but know that my arms are reaching out to you, and my heart is definitely loving you. I got to tell you that I had the best time last Sunday afternoon as you brought all your animals over to me to be able to let me give them a blessing, and maybe even more importantly, that they gave me a blessing as they brought their owners with them, and I got to see you as I saw them. So I want to show you a video of what happened there. Wasn't that fun? I got to tell you, I'm so thankful that I got to be there to be able to bless those animals, but the bigger blessing might have been that I got to see the people bringing them here. So thank you for letting me see both you and your larger family. There was one other thing that happened at that event which was amazing. Our children were there and they were collecting money for Katie cans, and you brought in almost $500 for our Katie cans, and of course Katie cans go out to help in issues of poverty and hunger, and that's really important for right now, because coming up in just a little bit, the 1st of November, we hope to be opening up our food pantry again. We will let you know more information, because we will need continued donations to Katie Can as well as your cans of food, and so watch for that information from Melissa. I want to tell you about one other event coming up on October the 21st. It will be down in Nogales, and it is called Children Seeking Asylum. There will be children that are coming from the Mexican side of the border. They won't be trying to cross that day, but they will be trying to be with us so that we can put pressure on the government to be able to reopen the asylum program. One other thing I've got to tell you is that Joni and I both received our ballots this week. I hope you got yours as well, but as soon as you get that, please vote. Please get it into the, get it back to the authorities so that we can have all votes counted early and often. Thank you so very much. Let's begin by lighting our candle.
The inauguration speech of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1933. First of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. In every dark hour of our national life, a leadership of frankness and vigor has met with the understanding and support of the people themselves, which is essential to victory. In such a spirit on my part and yours, we face our common difficulties. Compared with the perils which our forefathers conquered because they believed and were not afraid, we still have much to be thankful for. Nature still offers her bounty, and human efforts have multiplied it. Plenty is at our doorsteps, but a general use of it languishes in the very sight of supply. Primarily, this is because the rulers of the exchange of mankind's goods have failed. Through their own stubbornness and incompetence have admitted their failure and abdicated. Practices of the unscrupulous money changers stand indicted in the court of public opinion, rejected by the hearts and minds of men.
You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words in foreign lands, and all will understand. You shall see the face of God and live. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest.
Hi there, boys and girls. It's Miss Sarah. Thanks for joining me for Baxter Bear Stories. Today's story: How do we get out of here? Moses parts the Red Sea. Meet Baxter Bear and his buddies. They like to dress up and act out stories with costumes and props from around the house. You can try this too. Have you ever faced a problem you didn't know how to fix? Or moved to a new place? God loves us and will help us figure things out every step of the way. God's way forward can be more miraculous than we could ever imagine. Let's hear a story. A long time ago, God's special people were captured and taken away to work very hard in a place far from home. They were slaves. The people wanted to be free. Moses was their leader. God told Moses, "Tell Pharaoh, let my people go." So Moses did. But the bad guy, King Pharaoh, said no. Then God told the people, "I will send terrible warnings to change Pharaoh's hard heart. When he agrees to free you, you'll need to leave in a hurry. Get ready to escape. I will protect you from harm if you do as I say." One thing after the other, God really piled on the trouble for Pharaoh. Over and over Moses said, "Let my people go." But stubborn Pharaoh kept shouting, "No." Finally, after one last night of terrible trouble, Pharaoh had had enough. He agreed to free the slaves. "Get out, get out, get out," he cried. God's people escaped in a hurry. They left so fast the bread they were baking didn't have time to fluff up. Can you imagine a whole city moving out in the same day? All the families with all their animals and all their stuff started an escape to who knows where. Where are we going, they wondered. God created a cloud by day and a fireball by night to guide them, and the people trusted God. Until they came to a dead end. The sea, called the Red Sea, but really the water is blue. Meanwhile, after God's people left, Pharaoh was furious and set out with a huge army to capture his slaves. He could see them over the hills, trapped against the sea. God's people heard Pharaoh's angry army chasing them from behind, and in front of them was the sea. No way around it, no boats to sail over it. They were stuck. There was a lot to worry about. What now? Moses asked God for help. God told Moses to hold his walking stick out over the sea, and God's power poured out. Something amazing started to happen. The water began to split open until walls of water held back the deep, deep sea. Moses took the first step, right into the sea. It was scary, but he trusted God's plan. God cut a path through the sea so the people could pass through on dry ground. God promised, "You shall walk across the desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words in foreign lands, and all will understand. Know that I am with you through it all. Be not afraid. I go before you always." One by one, the brave people walked where they could never have dreamed of before. Step by step, God's people crossed the sea to safety. Pharaoh's army did not. The sea swallowed them up. The people were finally free. Yay, God! Baxter Bear's points to ponder. When we can't see a way out, God has a better view. Are we brave enough to let God lead us? Do not fear the future. God is already there, waiting for us. Thanks for listening, and remember, God loves you very much.
We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, marching in the light of God. Sia hamba kukanyan cuencos, sia hamba kukanyan cuencos, sia hamba kukanyan cuencos, sia hamba kukanyan cuencos, sia hamba hamba, sia hamba hamba, sia hamba kukanyan cuencos, sia hamba hamba, sia hamba hamba, sia hamba kukanyan cuencos. We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, marching in the light of God.
Good morning, St. Francis. My name is Peggy Slosser, and I'm the team coordinator for the Snack Pack School Pantry Program here at St. Francis. Today I want to give you an update on how our program is doing since last April when we went into quarantine due to COVID-19. Our volunteers are all in a high-risk group for the virus, and so we've gone on a temporary leave of absence until it's safe for us to return to the school, which is Prince Elementary, to pack and distribute food to families. While we're on leave, the school staff has really stepped up and has been packing and distributing the food for us. Our own team is eager to return to the duties once it's safe for us to do so. This effort, which really comes down to just 5 words, feeding hungry people in Tucson. This effort is one of the primary reasons why I joined St. Francis in 1992 and why I'm still here. Because we help people who need help. You can see that not only in our school pantry program, but also in Ishkashida, in Casa Maria, in Tijan, in our own food pantry here at the church office, and many other examples. So thank you all for giving your time, your talents, your treasures, and your prayers to St. Francis, for supporting all the good that we do in the world. Thank you.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, and we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, and I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, and I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up high like the waves, and I'll rise up in spite of the ache, and I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet, Feels like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying. I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. We'll bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day, and I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid, and I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves, and I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, and I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, rise like the day, and we'll rise up, rise unafraid, and we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. And we'll rise.
Hi, everybody. As we join together in prayer, I'd like to urge you just to really relax, take a big breath and let it go. And if you prolong your breath, it seems to trigger a relaxation response. So just let that happen. If you find your jaw or any other part of your bodies are tight, relax them and go inside as we join together in prayer. Sacred presence, source of all life. In you, both deep peace and a profound joy are found together. Gosh, how we need that. We're afraid of so much that's happening now. Like everything is ganging up on us. We live and breathe in such a toxic atmosphere. So when you try to offer us inner peace and a desire to understand the other person's fears, we'd much rather bring righteous anger and a determination to win. We wouldn't even know what a win-win looks like. Well, you want to place a wellspring of joy in us? We'd rather be victims of gloom and doom. When you call us to recognize that we're all the same, all from the same single source, with the same needs in common, what we do is separate ourselves into us and them. You only want happiness for us, but I'm busy complaining. You try to reach us with a love way beyond our imaginings. Yet, we live in fear that somebody might see through the good front we put up and find out our real secret thoughts and fears. We ask for forgiveness. But according to the picture Jesus gave us in the story of the prodigal son, you don't see anything to forgive because you never judged or blamed or felt hurt by our mistakes in the first place. We don't know how to let go of blaming and judging or feeling hurt by the words and actions. God help us. You shared your own holiness with us in our creation as a part of you. But there's a part of us that feels we don't deserve to be seen as sacred. Help us to let go of those things in me that are blocking love. Help me to believe more, come to feel and to know that I can't do anything to others without really doing it to myself. Help me understand your thoughts are part of me, and those are my real thoughts. Love created me like itself. Love, which created us all, is what we really are. We are covered in your kindness. We can't be alone. In all things, always, we're completely safe. Safe for all eternity. And we come to know that when we're with others and in their struggles and with their reactions and their impulses that they're dealing with. Help us to be free to revere all of life, our own and that of others, of everything that shares life with us and us with them. As we stand alongside those experiencing loss now, loss of jobs, of homes, of food, loss of family members and friends, even loss of hope, we think of them now in our hearts. And help us know, God, that no losses are final, that you guarantee we'll all find our way home to you and to each other. And in fact, learn we never really left. We are all at home with you always. And we pray that those better angels of our nature will come forth in our nation's elections. We are all at home with you always. Thank you. We really mean it. Thank you. Amen.
We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are never alone. We are not alone. We are never alone. God is with us. God is with us ever and ever. We are never alone. Are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are never alone. We are not alone. We are never alone. God is with us. God is with us ever and ever. We are never alone. Are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. God is with us now.
The scripture reading for this morning is from Exodus chapter 14, verses 21 through 25, from the New Revised Standard Version. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. God drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. The Israelites went into the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went into the sea after them. All the Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and chariot drivers. At the morning watch, God in a pillar of fire and cloud looked down upon the Egyptian army and threw the Egyptian army into panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they turned with difficulty. The Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the Israelites, for God is fighting for them against Egypt."
As we look at this scripture from Exodus 14 today, I don't want you to try to demythologize it. Demythologizing is a good thing, but let's not do it today because I want you to feel the full force of what this moment could be. And if you can't do it yourself, go get the Ten Commandments movie and watch as Moses lifts his arms and all the people on the shore have to decide between Pharaoh behind them and the Red Sea parted in front of them. And what an amazing set of options. There's fear in their heart about either one. They know what Pharaoh was like, but at least they know what Pharaoh's like. Walking through that Red Sea with the towering walls of water. How do you allow yourself to do that? How do you find the strength, the courage to do that? In Exodus, it said that Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. God drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the waters divided. The Israelites went into the sea, the waters forming a wall for them on the right and on the left. And somehow they had to find the strength to walk through that tunnel of water. Over the next 3 weeks, we will be going through an equally intimidating time. We're going to be talking about the importance and the challenge of our civic duty as we move towards voting on November in the beginning of November. PCIC just had an event to be able to begin looking at that, and there will be other events. Try to find what helps you to be informed and able to do that and get your vote in. At that PCIC event, I got to begin it all, and I said these words: "This is not just any old election. This is an election that is consequential, one that might very well change the course of history. And our job is to change this challenging year into a moment that changes everything. We have the opportunity to do that, you and I, with the power of our vote and the power of our activism as we help other people vote." Now, as a warning, over these next 3 weeks, as I talk about that election process, I'm going to be quoting some politicians, and maybe not the ones that you're going to vote for. But I'm also going to address the elephant and the donkey in the room, those two political parties that fight out for power and position every single year, and our relationship to those parties. And I'm going to expect you to do something important. During the next few weeks, I don't want you to just vote. I want you to be active. For there's a good chance that what we do in this moment can make the necessary difference to change this world, but only if we are courageous enough and active enough to overcome the challenges of the moment. And there are 3 challenges specifically that I see in this moment. The first one is that challenge of looking at that Red Sea, looking at Pharaoh's army, and deciding what to do. You're stuck between these 2 evils, if you will, but at least you know the one behind you. And sometimes the challenge is to move backwards. Now, we all know that we really can't go backwards, but we think we can. Think about what Pharaoh is going to do if he gets the children of Israel back. Is it going to be the same or even worse? It's going to be different for sure, and it's not going to be what they ever could have imagined. But that movement towards Pharaoh always tempts our heart and makes us move away from what the truly hard work is. In our call to awareness, Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1933, as he was being inaugurated for the first time, said those famous words, "First of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself." And then he went on and said, "Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance." You see, in this moment, we might want to retreat, but we truly can't. And as people of spirit, that's definitely not where the divine calls us. The divine calls us to move towards what it is that can be, move towards the challenge, but the challenge that we can't avoid. Latrell Easterling, one of our United Methodist bishops, had the most remarkable thing that she said this week. If you literally cannot breathe, you cannot wait patiently for air. The time, beloved, is now. We have to move forward. There is essential and important work that we are going to do in this moment. And if we are busy trying to retreat to a past that no longer exists, we lose the moment. It doesn't mean that the past is irrelevant, but it's not our direction. We are moving somewhere else. That past is our motivation. Matthew Shepard died on this day, this week, October 7th in 1998. And he reminds us of what we don't want to go back to. He reminds us that what was there is what we want to make sure doesn't perpetuate in this election or in our world. What is it? What else is it that we don't want to carry forward? What is it that we need to leave behind as we try to make the challenging decision of stepping forward? And the difficulty is that people are going to be saying, "Where are you going? You're heading into that ocean. Don't you see this over here? This is a much better choice." And we have to be strong and say, "No, this is where we need to go." But that will take finding strength, courage, vision, stuff that sometimes seems at short supply in the midst of all this, because to step into the Red Sea goes against all common sense, against all reason. But Friedrich Nietzsche said the most amazing thing. He said, "Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who couldn't hear the music." We have heard the music that calls us forward, tells us the new place that we can go to, that we have to go to. And people are going to not understand that. People are going to wonder, why are you running that way? We have to stand firm in the divine voice that is leading us forward. This last week, I went back to an old album that I've had for 40 years by a man named Rick Wakeman. He was the keyboardist for the band Yes. And he did some solo work, and his most famous was one called Journey to the Center of the Earth, where he told musically as well as vocally the story, that Jules Verne story about the explorers going into the earth. And at one point, Axel, one of the explorers, finds himself alone and in this strange place, and he's running away trying to figure out what to do, and he falls exhausted. And there's this one piece that I remember so strongly. It's him being there, and all of a sudden it goes, voices, voices. He heard voices. In a moment like this, in a moment where all is lost, a moment where we feel completely out of our element, God is still speaking and drawing us forward. The problem is that that voice doesn't always call us where we want. It calls us towards a Red Sea that seems uncrossable until we have the faith to put our feet in it, and suddenly the waters part. How is it that in this moment, the divine is calling you towards something that you didn't expect before, that has opened up since the pandemic has come, that has caused you to have to rethink yourself and the world around you? And how are you moving that way? The hearing of voices, especially the uncommon voices, will often result in attacking behavior from other people. Attacking and its cousin defensiveness are ways that somebody tries to protect themselves because they don't hear the voice you're listening to. There will be many people who will reinforce the fear that is in them by trying to attack you and change your course. And you will have to move forward courageously. Kamala Harris at the debates this week did that wonderfully well as she looked at the vice president and said very strongly, "I am speaking. It is my turn." And we have to have that same type of courage to say what is true, even in the face of whatever somebody else is trying to do. We will have to draw strong lines, not just for ourselves, but for others as well. Back about the same time I was listening to Journey to the Center of the Earth, I also listened to a man named David Bowie, and he sang a song called Changes. And here's a meme with that picture, with some of the lyrics on there. And it says, "And these children that you spit upon, as you try to change their worlds, are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. Don't tell them to grow up and out of it. Turn and face the strange changes." We have to move towards the waters, towards that which doesn't quite seem like the avenue, but that will lead us forward. Franklin Delano Roosevelt goes on to say, "In every dark hour of our national life, a leadership of frankness and vigor has met with that understanding and support of the people themselves, which is essential to victory." In this election cycle, as with every election cycle, but maybe even more this year, we have to be the leaders who bring us towards something brand new, who help this world discover what they can be, not what they're fearfully aware of. For you see, that fear which causes the defensiveness, that fear which causes the attacking, the fear that's trying to draw us backwards towards Pharaoh, isn't the voice of God. The voice of God leads us towards and into that space between the walls of water, that space that looks so dangerous, but that leads us to liberation. And not just us, all those around us. And it looks messy because that muddy bottom of the basin, that space where the water used to be, isn't going to be an easy trek. The walls around us are going to continue to threaten us. But this is the way we must move. We must overcome our fears and walk boldly toward that brave new world. But to do that, it helps to remember two other things. There are things we must leave behind, fear being the primary one. In the midst of our fear, in the midst of that which we don't understand, we have got to set aside that which could paralyze us and stop us from moving forward. Michael Murdad, quoting St. John of the Cross, that 16th century Spanish saint, said, "The dark night of the soul is a purging process that calls for us to release all that is unhealed and unnecessary. Releasing all that is the way of our highest good." The Israelites had to stand on the side of the Red Sea as they chose to enter, and they had to say, what do I want to carry through the morass that's down below? What do I want to carry through that journey? What is important enough? What is desirable enough? What is it that I want to have that's so important that it's worth slowing me down some? And what is not worth that slowing down? What do I leave on the shore? Be not afraid, we just sang. And that a fear is something we have to set aside as we step into that space. What else needs to be set aside? You know, the difficulties as we move into this election is that the United States is not quite as mobile as it used to be. We used to be able to pick up all our stuff and go more on a moment's notice. And yet this is a moment where we must decide how to be that type of mobile, to change from that which is easiest, simplest, that's what has become normal here, and move into the new world that God is calling us to. The Israelites had all their livestock, all their possessions, all those household goods, but what was truly important? If we were looking at what to leave behind, I'd start with whatever allows the flies to gather and move from there. But as we move forward, we have to remember what we take on as well. Look at this meme. In this life, we are all just walking up the mountain, and we can sing as we climb, or we can complain about our sore feet. Whichever we choose, we still got to do the hike. I decided long ago, singing made a lot more sense. As we set things aside, as we leave them behind us, what do we bring on? How do we encourage each other? How do we help each other to move into that space? Part of it is what we take ownership as we move forward. The trio sang that wonderful song about "He ain't heavy, he's my brother." And we take on things, we take on each other and claim each other and choose the love between us. And that's not easy to do. Peggy Schlosser spoke to us about snack packs and about the change they've had to go through this year, as they've had to say, what is it that's most important as we carry forward? How do we help each other make that change towards that new day, that new journey, that new challenge? But choosing each other, not just the ones that are easy to choose, but choosing all of those that are walking with us is an important thing. I've told you before about the Who, the Mongolian rock group. They sing a song called Wolf Totem. And in that they sing, we've all been lost, we've all been cold, let's all rise to the brethren code. Let's all remember the family that we are, even when we've been a dysfunctional family, even when we've sometimes been at odds with each other, even when the loyal opposition has felt more like an enemy. Let's rise to choose to help each other as we go through this most devastating year and time politically around us. How we choose to help each other defines the spirit of who we truly are as a people and as a community. And it's easy to use tactics that divide us and set us at odds. Back in the 1850s, when Abraham Lincoln was first elected as a U.S. Senator, he spoke a speech that became known as a house divided. And he was looking at a house that was even more divided than what we look at. And he said, if we could first know where we are and whither we are tending, we could better judge what to do and how to do it. We are now far into the 5th year since a policy was initiated with the avowed object and confident promise of putting an end to slavery agitation. Under the operation of that policy, that agitation has not only not ceased, but has constantly augmented. In my opinion, it will not cease until a crisis shall have been reached and passed. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other. We are currently in a situation that seems so very similar to that. Do we choose each other, or we choose our separate things that divide us? And what will change? Well, there's one possible avenue, one positive avenue of correction. One of our candidates stood on the grounds where Abraham Lincoln spoke another famous speech, the Battle of Gettysburg speech. And he said this week, "We should consider again what can happen when equal justice is denied and when anger and violence and division are left unchecked. Our trust in each other is ebbing. Hope is elusive. Too many Americans see our public life not as an arena for the mediation of our differences. Rather, they see it as an occasion for total, unrelenting partisan warfare. Instead of treating the other party as the opposition, we treat them as the enemy. This must end. We must seek not to clench our fists, but to open our arms. This is our work. This is our pledge. This is our mission, that we can end the hatred and the division. If we just win an election, but divide ourselves further, something happens horribly to all of us. If we just win at the expense of others, what have we truly achieved? In this moment, we must not only win and elect our candidates, but also bring our nation back together. Thich Nhat Hanh, he wrote a book named Living Buddha, Living Christ. It's an amazing book. I have Robbie Dick's copy. And he talks about how Buddhism speaks of salvation by understanding. And the lack of understanding creates suffering. Understanding is the power that can liberate us. That person on the other side that you disagree with, that person on the other side that is difficult for you to want to like or want to understand, is exactly the person who you need to work to understand, so that they feel understood, and also so that they look to you and try to understand you, and so that healing happens rather than further division. When I think about the mud at the bottom of the Red Sea, I always think about my brother Richard. We used to call him Stick in the Mud. Well, we still do. He's well into his 50s now, but we called him that because in the dynamics of our family, where we had the older set of kids and the younger set of kids, he was third in that younger family, and I was quite a bit older. I was the oldest one in that set of the family, and then Sarah was below us, and then Richard came along. And so if I'd jump off a house, Sarah would follow pretty easily. Richard would look with a lot of fear in his eyes. If I would go through the canal behind our house with all its raging waters, he would be the one who would most often stay on his side and say, "I'm not sure about that." And it wasn't necessarily because he was fearful so much as he was saying, it was easier for you, the older brother, but how is it for me? And I had to decide, what do I do? Do I force him off the roof? Do I force him through the water? Or do I understand why that's putting fear in his heart? We heard today that we are not alone. That wonderful song that reminds us that in every single moment, we don't have to do it alone. So if I would go back onto that roof and help him, or on his side of the canal and be beside him, sometimes that stick in the mud would find ways through. But it takes some effort. I saw this meme that said, "Behind you, all your memories. Before you, all your dreams. Around you, all who love you. Within you, all you need." Your friends, even those friends who today feel like the loyal opposition or even the enemy to you, they need to know that you are around them so that they can find within them all they need to be able to continue forward. In Exodus, it said that the Egyptians pursued and went into the sea after them, but then their chariots clogged down in the mud. Why is it that it only said the chariots of the Egyptians clogged in the mud? I think it's because the Israelites chose each other. In the midst of all those things that could have clogged them down as well, they chose to look and see, oh, this next wagon over is having trouble. I'm going to help them. Even leaving my own wagon for a time to be able to help them. And together, that family, together that community, together that people of God helped each other through the mud that captured the Egyptians. Why did the Egyptians get stuck and not the Israelites? Because the Israelites chose each other. In the midst of this election, where we're choosing what will seem like against each other, let us all each choose each other as well. We're going to sing the song right now, We Shall Overcome. That song which called us into a community with each other. Not because the way was easy, not because we understood the walls of water beside us or the mud down in the basin below. It's because we were choosing each other to help ourselves through that. And we saw a vision that drew us beyond all of that difficulty. And we knew that the way was forward and not back towards Pharaoh. We knew that we had to move forward, but we could only do it if we overcome. We shall overcome. Join me in singing this song.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we are not afraid today. Truth shall make us free. Truth shall make us free. Truth shall make us free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that truth shall make us free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome
So how do we get through the next few days and weeks, both before the election and after? We remember what is most important. We choose love. In fact, we do more than just choose love. We lead with love. So go into your world and lead with your love. Let every single person, both those that are on your side and those that are the loyal opposition, feel your love and lead them into the brave new world to which we have before us. Let's sing that song together.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes. Don't you despair. Don't you despair. Look up ahead. Look up ahead. The path is there. The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. I know you're scared. And I'm scared too. And I'm scared too. But here I am. But here I am. Right next to you. Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love.